On December 7, 2015, the Minister of Finance introduced a motion in the House of Commons to raise taxes effective January 1st of the forthcoming year. The stock market dropped, and so did Morneau Shepell, by 5 percentage points, but not before someone could sell $10 million in Morneau Shepell shares 1 week before that drop and that bill was introduced. Can the Minister tell us who sold those shares?
Order. I'm not sure how a question of who sold shares in a company is a question of responsibility of the government. However, I see the Minister of Finance is rising.
Mr. Speaker, I actually see it as an opportunity to talk about why we did, in fact, raise taxes. What we did was we said to Canadians that we thought the appropriate thing to do was to raise taxes on the top 1%. And what we said that would enable us to do was to lower taxes on middle-class Canadians. So what we did was we lowered taxes on Canadians, 45,000 and 90,000 tax bracket, by 7%. It went down from 22% to 20.5%. Thus, what we did, Mr. Speaker, was lowered middle-class taxes on 9 million Canadians. We think this is a really important initiative to ensure tax fairness in our country, and we'll stay on top of that.
The member for Carleton.
The Minister's office told John Ivison that he sold 680,000 Morneau Shepell shares. At 10:25 on November 30th, 2015, someone sold 680,000 Morneau Shepell shares. That someone would have saved $500,000 by avoiding the drop in the stock market that followed his introduction of tax measures in this House of Commons. So is it just a coincidence that those two transactions line up so carefully? Or, in fact, did the minister jump the gun and sell his shares before he introduced his tax measures?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I think I have a good idea of why members on the opposite side are trying to create conspiracy theories out of thin air. I think their objective is to deflect Canadians from understanding what they don't want them to understand. And that's that the policies that we put in place are making an enormous positive difference for Canadian families. So by introducing the Canada Child Benefit, we're helping 9 out of 10 families do much better. By indexing that, what we're going to see is that we'll keep up with inflation. Mr. Speaker, we're also seeing that we're moving forward with the working income tax benefit to help working Canadians to get into the middle class. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue on these efforts.
Order. I would urge the member for Foothills, who we all love to hear from when he has the floor, to reserve his comments for when he has the floor. The member for Carleton.
Reading the Liberal platform, one would have expected that that tax increase would take effect at the beginning of the fiscal year. That's when it projected revenues. Instead, in the House of Commons, the minister confirmed that it would take effect at the beginning of the calendar year. Now, investors quickly sold their shares in the 2015 year so that they could realize their gains in a lower taxed year. The markets dropped. Morneau Shepell dropped by 5%, but not before someone who knew what was going on was able to sell his shares and save $500,000. Wow. Who was that somebody?
Who was that?
Once again, it is not clear that this is within the responsibility of the government. And as I see no one rising to answer, no member for Carleton.
Well, it is actually the responsibility of government to ensure that no minister ever uses inside knowledge to benefit from transactions on the stock market, Mr. Speaker. And we know that when this member locked in stone changes to the tax system that would raise capital gains tax, investors quickly sold so that they could make their gains before those changes took effect. The stock market dropped as a result. Morneau Shepell went down 5%. But somebody sold $10 million in shares before that could happen. Somebody sold those shares before the minister introduced his measures on the floor of the House of Commons. Was that this minister?
Minister of Finance.
I'm happy to answer for the fact that as Minister of Finance, I'm looking to make sure that our economy does well. Of course, one of the ramifications of that is positive.
Order. I need to hear the answer. Members need to hear the answer. We need to know whether someone said something that's out of order. Or would members prefer we went on to something else? Order. Honourable Minister of Finance has the floor.
As one of the things that the Finance Minister does, we work to make sure that the economy is doing well. What's happened over the last couple of years is the economy's done well. Of course, one of the positive upsides of that is sometimes the stock market does well as well. Of course, the stock market is significantly up from when we came into office. Mr. Speaker, we're working on behalf of middle-class Canadians, trying to help Canadians to get in the middle class. The good news is those efforts are working. Canadians are seeing the benefit. At the same time, we're seeing advantages across the economy.
And I advocate
The honourable member for Louis City. Order.